What if your entire village's fate rested on the shoulders of one healer? Step into the enchanting world of Eldermere, a dark fantasy woven with magic, courage, and unexpected alliances. Meet Calista, a gifted healer, determined to protect her community from a lurking darkness that threatens to unravel everything she holds dear. As she faces the challenge of her life, the stakes couldn't be higher. Fail, and her village crumbles. Succeed, and she risks losing herself in the process. Join us as we embark on this thrilling adventure, filled with resilience and hope. This is Chapter 1 of The Weight of Wishes. Let the journey begin.
Chapter 1. The Call to Adventure. Calista stood at the edge of her village, the homes and familiar faces receding into the distance. The morning light bathed Eldermere in a golden hue, igniting her memories of laughter, healing, and the whispered hopes of its people. As she took a tentative step forward, a mixture of nostalgia and determination surged within her. Her heart raced, reflecting both the comfort of her home and the uncertainty that lay ahead. She clutched her pouch, feeling its weight, not just with herbs but with her responsibilities. A sudden breeze whispered through the trees, rustling leaves above her. Calista cast one last glance back, imprinting the sight of the village into her mind. She needed to carry that image with her, a reminder of what she fought for in this journey. With a steadying breath, she turned her back on the familiar, embracing the unknown adventure that awaited in the depths of the forest. Each step away brought a sense of freedom, yet the weight of her commitment pressed heavy on her shoulders. She quickened her pace, determined to keep moving forward. Calista was no longer just a healer. She was now a protector, ready to face whatever challenges the forest had in store. Calista stepped into the healing house, the familiar scents of herbs and dried flowers wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. The sunlight filtered through the windows, illuminating the shelves lined with jars filled with remedies and salves. She moved with intention, her fingers brushing against the wooden shelves as she surveyed the tools of her trade. Each item carried a story, a memory of those she had helped and healed. Yet, a cloud of uncertainty hung over her. The village had been plagued by illness recently, the whispers of worry palpable in the air. With each new ailment that struck, her resolve deepened. She would find a way to help them all. Calista reached for a bundle of herbs, carefully laid out for her next patient, her thoughts stirring with determination. There was no time for self-doubt. She had a duty to fulfill, and the urgency drove her to organize her supplies with meticulous care. The sound of laughter from outside drew her attention, a reminder of the life she was fighting to protect. With each item she gathered, she felt a flicker of hope ignite within her, a promise she made to herself and the village. With her heart set on healing those in need, Calista prepared to step back into the world outside, ready to face whatever challenges awaited her. Calista finished organizing her herbs and stepped outside, the warmth of the sun wrapping around her like a familiar quilt. As she walked through the village, she took in the sights, the children playing by the fountain, the laughter ringing out, and the smell of baked bread wafting from the bakery. She felt a sense of belonging, but the shadow of recent illnesses loomed in her mind. The village had changed. Fear and uncertainty crept through the familiar streets. Approaching a small group of children, she felt a tug on her heart. One of them, a little boy named Finn, looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes. "Will you help my sister?" he asked, his voice small but resolute. Calista knelt down, meeting his gaze. "Of course, Finn. I'll do everything I can." Finn's gratitude washed over her, igniting her determination. She promised to visit his home later, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. Continuing down the path, she noticed a worried mother glancing her way, her expression revealing the anxiety that gripped the village. Calista offered a warm smile, reminding herself that each step, each interaction, was crucial in this fight for their health and safety. As she continued her walk, a gentle breeze carried whispers of worries through the village. Calista paused by a garden where flowers swayed, and she caught sight of several villagers gathered in hushed conversation. Intrigued, she moved closer. "Did you hear about the latest illness?" A village elder murmured, concern etching deep lines across his forehead. Another villager nodded gravely. "It's spreading. We need a solution, something more than what we have." Calista felt a familiar anxious flutter in her stomach. She approached, ready to offer her support, but hesitated as their worried faces looked up at her. "What do you think we should do, Calista?" one of them asked, vulnerability tinged in his voice. Calista realized that they were looking to her not just for healing, but for hope. She steeled herself, forcing a confident smile even as doubt flickered within her. "Together, we can find a way to help those who are suffering," she replied, attempting to project the strength she desperately sought for herself. The villagers exchanged glances, expressions shifting between hope and skepticism. She felt the depth of their trust and the burden of their expectations heavy on her heart. "Let me visit the sick and see what more we can do," Calista suggested, determined to take action. Determined to act quickly, Calista made her way to Finn's house, her heart racing with the urgency of her mission. The familiar path felt both comforting and heavy, thoughts swirling in her mind about the ailments they were facing. Arriving at the small wooden door, she knocked gently, her palms slightly sweaty as she rehearsed her words in a quiet corner of her mind. Finn's mother opened the door, her eyes wide with worry. "Calista, thank you for coming," she said, pulling back to allow Calista inside. Calista stepped into the dim light of the home, taking a moment to survey the space filled with the warmth of family, but tinged with anxiety. The atmosphere was thick with tension, underscored by the soft whimpers of Finn's sister in the next room. "I'm here to help," Calista reassured the mother, her voice steady despite the storm of feelings within her. She moved toward the sound of distress, feeling the pull of a healer's instinct guiding her forward. As she entered the small bedroom, she found Finn's sister, a fragile-looking girl, lying on the bed surrounded by blankets. Calista knelt beside her, a flare of determination rising within. "Hey there," she said softly, brushing a stray hair from the girl's forehead. "I'm going to help you feel better." Finn's sister looked up at her with trusting eyes, and Calista felt a rush of purpose. She began to assess the girl's condition, carefully checking for symptoms and considering the remedies she might need to create. Callista's heart swelled with commitment, reminding herself of the importance of her role, not just a healer, but a source of hope in a time of fear. She quietly recited the herbal ingredients she would need, ready to jump into action, knowing their community depended on her. Calista glanced around the room, taking note of the small details that could aid her in preparing a remedy. The shelves were stocked with various jars containing herbs and mixtures, but she quickly realized that some much-needed supplies were missing. Determined, she turned to Finn's mother. "Do you have any willow bark or honey?" The woman hesitated, looking over her shoulder toward the kitchen. "I think we might have some honey, but the willow bark, it's been hard to find lately." Calista felt a twinge of anxiety at the thought of not having all the resources she needed. She took a deep breath, maintaining her focus. "Every little bit helps. I can make a soothing syrup if we have the honey." With her mind racing, she quickly moved toward the kitchen, helping the mother search for the ingredients. They rummaged through cabinets, Calista feeling a mix of urgency and hope as they finally unearthed a small jar of honey, its golden color promising sweetness and healing. Armed with what she needed, Calista returned to the bedroom where Finn's sister lay. She set to work, carefully combining the honey with warm water and other available herbs she could find, her hands steady despite the pressure mounting around her. As she mixed, Calista stole glances at the girl, watching her breathing and noting the signs of discomfort. "You're going to be okay," she whispered, her voice filled with certainty. She poured the syrup into a small cup and offered it to the girl, who took it hesitantly. Callista's heart raced as she waited, praying that her preparation would offer relief. "Good job," she encouraged, smiling as the girl sipped the syrup. The bond formed in that moment was as important as any remedy, and Calista recognized that her role extended beyond just healing. She was a pillar of hope in this fragile moment. Chapter 2. The Allies Assemble. Calista stood in the heart of the village, observing the bustling energy around her. The air was thick with the scent of fresh bread and laughter, but an underlying tension hung in the atmosphere, a reminder of the recent illnesses that had gripped their home. She watched as villagers went about their daily tasks, gathering supplies and tending to the lush gardens that surrounded Eldermere. Yet, amid the ordinary sights, whispering fears lingered. Illness had taken root, and the anxiety of the villagers mirrored the sickened faces she had encountered. Determined to make a difference, Calista headed toward the healing house, her heart set on preparing remedies that might soothe those still suffering. Each footstep resonated with purpose. She had a duty to fulfill, and she wouldn't shy away from it. As she stepped inside, the familiar scent of dried herbs enveloped her, providing a sense of comfort. Calista moved to her workstation, methodically sorting through the remaining supplies, her mind racing with thoughts of the village and the stories she had heard. Just then, a young villager approached her, eyes wide with apprehension. "Calista," he said softly, "my sister is still unwell. What can we do?" Calista knelt down to meet his gaze, her heart aching at the worry etched on his face. "I will do everything I can to help," she promised, finding strength in her words. Reassured, the boy nodded, and Calista could feel the weight of her responsibility solidifying with that interaction. She gathered herbs and prepared to mix a remedy, her fingers dancing over the ingredients with practiced grace. With each move, the familiar motions grounded her, anchoring her amidst the swirling uncertainty of daily life in the village. Callista's resolve shone through, her ambition and compassion intertwining as she set to work, determined to heal those who depended on her expertise. Calista finished mixing the remedy and carefully filled a small vial, sealing it tight as she prepared for her next move. While she worked, she mentally reviewed the list of ingredients and remedies that could potentially soothe the ailments plaguing the village. "Think, Calista. What else do I need?" she murmured to herself, her brow furrowing in concentration. She moved to the shelves lined with jars, identifying which remedies were in short supply and which ingredients were running low. Dried flowers, roots, and extracts were meticulously categorized, each one holding the promise of healing. As she worked, the sound of laughter drifted through the open window, drawing her attention outside. A group of children played by the fountain, their carefree joy a stark contrast to the worries of her duties. Determined to focus, she returned to her preparations and recalled the stories she had heard about a rare herb said to enhance the power of her remedies. "If I could find it, perhaps I could make a more potent mixture," she thought, her ambition igniting once more. Calista decided then to seek out this herb. She quickly gathered her supplies, a sense of urgency threading through her as she told herself that the village's well-being depended on her. With her pack slung over her shoulder, she stepped outside into the warm sun, her mind racing with possibilities. This was not just an errand. It was a quest for a solution, a chance to make a real difference. Before she headed towards the woods, she turned back towards the laughter, a fleeting smile gracing her lips as she sent silent encouragement to the children. Her determination solidified. She could not let them down. Calista made her way toward the woods, her heart beating with both anticipation and apprehension. The trees loomed overhead, their shadows dancing across the forest floor as she stepped onto the path leading into the depths of the foliage. The air was thick with the scent of earth and greenery, invigorating her senses. She paused for a moment, absorbing the serenity of the forest, but a sense of urgency quickly tugged at her as she reminded herself of the quest ahead. As she ventured deeper, she noticed the subtle rustle of leaves and the occasional call of distant birds. A mix of beauty and unpredictability surrounded her, amplifying her resolve to find the rare herb that could enhance her remedies. Calista recalled the stories shared by village elders about the herb's location, singing praises of its magical properties. This herb was said to flourish in an area known as the Whispering Glade, a place she had only heard of in tales. Determined, she pushed forward, navigating through the tangled underbrush and taking careful steps to avoid getting caught in the thick foliage. Suddenly, she spotted a cluster of vibrant flowers peeking through the trees, its color striking against the greens of the forest. Feeling a flicker of hope, she approached the flowers slowly, assessing whether this was indeed the herd she sought. But as she reached out, a flash of hesitation crossed her mind. What if she was mistaken? What if it was something else entirely? Taking a breath, Calista reminded herself to trust her instincts. She gently plucked the sample, wanting to examine it more closely, and felt a rush of excitement at the prospect of potential success. This moment affirmed her ambition. She would find the herb and prove herself as a healer, ready to bring back hope to the village. As Calista examined the flower closely, her excitement morphed into uncertainty. It didn't look quite like the herb described in the elder stories. Its petals were slightly different, and the scent was unfamiliar. She sighed, feeling a wave of frustration at the possibility of disappointment in her search. She had come so far, and the temptation to retreat back to the village tugged at her. Yet deep down, she knew that she needed to push through this uncertainty. This was a vital step toward helping her community. Calista decided to harvest a few more samples of the flower, hoping that further examination would provide clarity. She placed them carefully in her pouch, ensuring they wouldn't be damaged. As she stood up, ready to continue her journey, a noise startled her, rustling in the bushes nearby. Her heart raced, and she instinctively reached for her knife, her senses heightened. Slowly, she turned to face the sound, steeling herself for whatever might emerge. To her surprise, a small creature with bright eyes and a curious expression peeked out at her. Calista let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding, the initial fear dissipating as she observed the harmless creature. It scurried closer, sniffing the air, a playful nature apparent in its movements. In that moment, she felt reassured by the forest's life around her, a reminder that she was part of something much bigger. The creature seemed to represent the spirit of her journey, wild, unpredictable, but full of potential. Calista smiled softly, her confidence rekindled. With renewed determination, she proceeded further into the woods, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Calista continued her journey through the forest, her senses heightened by the vibrant life that surrounded her. The air felt alive, filled with the sense of damp earth and blooming flowers, invigorating her spirit as she moved forward. She had a purpose now, her earlier doubts fading with each step. The prospect of finding the rare herb fueled her determination, igniting a fire within her to not only fulfill her duties, but also to prove herself capable. As she navigated the winding path, she mentally reviewed the notes she had taken about potential plants along the way. Each leaf, each flower, could have healing properties that might aid her in her mission. Suddenly, Calista spotted a shadow shifting between the trees, her heart quickening. She stopped, holding her breath as she scanned the area, her instincts kicking in. Was it a threat, or perhaps another innocent creature? Steeling herself, she quietly approached, ready to defend if necessary. However, her fear turned to curiosity as the figure came into view. A wise old woman, clad in flowing robes adorned with natural symbols, picking herbs with delicate care. Calista recognized her from village stories, a healer of the forest, known for her deep understanding of nature's magic. Feeling awed yet determined, she gathered her courage to address the woman. "Excuse me," Calista called softly, trying to mask her nervousness. "I'm looking for a rare herb said to enhance healing. Have you seen it nearby?" The old woman turned, her eyes sparkling with wisdom. "Ah, the herb you seek does indeed thrive, but only for those who show respect to the forest's spirit. she replied, her voice warm yet filled with an unmistakable authority. Calista felt a rush of excitement mixed with respect, aware of the importance of this moment. The old woman gestured for her to approach, inviting her into a world of knowledge that would deepen her understanding of the paths ahead. "Follow me, child," she said. "I will teach you the ways of the forest and guide you to what you seek." Callista's heart soared. This encounter felt like a pivotal step, a connection that would enhance her journey as she moved closer to her goal. Calista followed the wise woman deeper into the forest, the sounds of leaves rustling beneath their feet and birds calling from the trees, creating a symphony of nature around them. She felt a sense of wonder as she entered a glade filled with vibrant blooms and the fragrant aroma of herbs. The old woman moved gracefully, pausing occasionally to touch a plant or inspect a flower. "Every herb has a purpose," she explained, her voice soft yet firm. "The forest rewards those who listen and observe." Calista watched in awe, her mind absorbing the lessons being woven into the air. The woman pointed out various plants, demonstrating how to identify their healing properties and the right time to harvest them. Calista took notes eagerly, her heart racing with excitement at the knowledge being imparted to her. As they moved, the wise woman paused by a shimmering plant that caught Callista's eye. "Here lies the herb you seek," she said, kneeling to carefully gather the delicate leaves. "But remember, it's not just about what you take, it's about what you give back to the earth." Calista nodded, understanding the significance of reciprocity in nature. This moment ignited a spark within her, tying her journey to a greater purpose beyond just her village's needs. "I promise to honor the forest," Calista responded earnestly, feeling the weight of responsibility settle upon her. The old woman smiled, a glint of approval in her eyes. "With that promise, you are ready to learn." Calista felt a surge of confidence, acknowledging that each step deeper into the forest was not just about seeking resources, but also about evolving into a healer who respected the cycle of life. Chapter 3: The Weight of Decisions. Calista emerged from the woods, her arms full of freshly gathered herbs, ready to bring new knowledge and hope back to Eldermere. The sun hung low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the village, but a sense of urgency gnawed at her. As she made her way home, her mind replayed the old woman's teachings about the balance of nature and the responsibilities that came with wielding such knowledge. Each flower and leaf she carried felt like a promise to her village and a commitment to protect them. Upon entering the village, she noticed a group of villagers gathered in hushed conversation, their expressions tense. Calista quickened her pace, a knot of anxiety forming in her stomach at the sight of worried faces. "Is everything all right?" she called out, urgency lacing her tone. The villagers turned towards her, a mix of relief and concern on their faces. One elder stepped forward, his voice heavy. "It's the children, Calista. They've fallen ill again and we don't know what to do." Callista's heart sank as she remembered the stories of the ailments that plagued the village. She quickly moved into action, letting her focus shift to solutions rather than despair. "Gather what I need," she instructed, determination infusing her words. "I'll prepare remedies that can help them heal." The villagers nodded, and a sense of purpose ignited among them as they began to collect supplies. Calista felt their weight of trust resting on her shoulders, a powerful reminder of her role within the community. As she swiftly organized the herbs she had collected, Calista recognized the urgency of returning to her work. Understanding that their safety depended on her knowledge and skill, Calista moved quickly through the healing house, her heart racing as she prepared the necessary remedies for the sick children. The familiar scent of herbs filled her senses, anchoring her in the urgency of the moment. She began sorting through her supplies, gathering the herbs she had recently collected, and recalling the old woman's guidance on which mixtures would be most effective. Her hands moved deftly as she measured and mixed, a rhythm of practiced motions guiding her. As she worked, the sounds of villagers whispering outside drifted through the window, heightening her awareness of the stakes involved. Each ailment she treated felt critical, each child's well-being a reminder of her responsibility. Calista's fingers hesitated over a jar of herbs. She recalled the stories of potential cures the elders had shared, but felt doubts creeping in. Would her new knowledge be enough? Resolutely, she pushed those thoughts aside, focusing instead on the task at hand. "You can do this," she murmured to herself. She moved quickly, layering the ingredients for a soothing syrup, adding honey for sweetness and calming effect. As she stirred the mixture, the tensions inside her began to ease, replaced by a certainty that this remedy could help the children recover. Sensing the villagers' expectations, Calista poured the syrup into small vials, calling the importance of speed and preparation. The weight of responsibility only served to magnify her determination to act decisively for those who depended on her. With the vials complete, she turned, finding the villagers now waiting eagerly, their anticipation evident. This moment reaffirmed her purpose, solidifying the commitment she had made to the village and herself. Calista carefully placed the vials of syrup on a wooden tray, her heart pounding as she prepared to visit the ailing children. She took a moment to gather her thoughts, knowing that each step she took was weighted with the hopes of the villagers. Stepping outside, she was met with anxious faces, and her resolve strengthened. Families had gathered, eyes filled with worry and expectation. Each glance felt heavy, urging her forward into the unknown. "Calista," a mother called, her voice trembling. "Is there hope for my little one? Can you help?" Calista approached, her determination radiating from her as she replied, "I promise to do everything I can. I'll begin administering the remedies right away." She noticed a child peeking from behind the mother's legs, a look of fear in his eyes. Calista knelt down to meet his gaze. "You're going to feel better soon," she assured him, her voice gentle. Taking a deep breath, she turned and followed the mother into their home, the familiar scent of earthy spices filling the air. Inside, a young child lay on the bed, weak and flushed. Calista swiftly assessed the situation, recalling the signs she had learned to recognize. She pulled out the syrup, ready to begin treating the child, but a moment of doubt crept in. What if it wasn't enough? Shaking off her hesitation, Calista focused on the task at hand. She poured the syrup into a small spoon, gently coaxing the child to take it, whispering soothing words to comfort him. The child took the syrup hesitantly, and for a brief moment, Calista held her breath, hoping for the best. The child's eyes brightened slightly as he swallowed the remedy, giving her a glimmer of hope amidst the uncertainty. She observed the reactions of the family, their eyes wide with anticipation, and felt an empowering sense of purpose. Each successful step forward fueled her commitment to heal, revitalizing her confidence as a healer. Having administered the syrup, Calista remained beside the child, keenly observing his reactions. The faint rise and fall of his breath, once shallow, now seemed less labored, sparking a flicker of hope within her. "Just rest now," she whispered, brushing a hand gently over the child's forehead, feeling the warmth that still lingered. The mother sat on the edge of the bed, anxiety etched on her face as she watched Calista with anticipation. "Will it work?" she asked, her voice trembling with uncertainty. Calista offered a reassuring smile. "It might take a little time, but the herbs should help. Be patient." As she got up to gather more supplies, the mother spoke again, her voice shaking. "We've tried so many things. I just don't know what to believe anymore." Calista paused and turned to face her, sensing the weight of despair that hung in the air. "I understand. It's hard to feel hope when you've faced so much uncertainty, but I promise, I'm here to help." The mother nodded, but doubt still clouded her eyes. Calista felt the pressure of responsibility intensify. Encouraging words were no longer enough. She needed to help instill real belief in recovery. Moments later, as she sifted through her ingredients, Calista overheard a whispered conversation among other villagers outside, filled with worries about the increasing illnesses. The words struck her like ice water, reminding her just how many lives were at stake. With a deep breath, she resolved to do more, to not only help this child, but to rally the village toward finding collective solutions. "I'll need to gather more herbs," she said decisively, looking back at the mother. "And I believe it's time to share what I've learned, so that others can help too." Taking a moment to regain her composure, Calista felt a renewed sense of purpose coursing through her veins. This was not just about healing one child. It was about igniting hope within the entire village. Her decision reflected her growth, and she understood that every action she took from here on would shape the community's future. Calista made her way back into the village, her heart steady with determination as she sought out the gathering of villagers. News of her brewing remedies and recent successes had spread, and now she felt a growing responsibility to share her knowledge. As she arrived at the village square, she noticed an array of concerned faces looking her way, curiosity mingling with anxiety. The villagers had gathered, their whispers filling the air with a mix of worry and hope. "Calista!" a voice called out from the crowd, a familiar face emerging through the throng. It was Finn's mother, her eyes searching for reassurance. "What can we do to help?" Calista stood taller, absorbing the energy of the villagers. "We need to start working together. I have some remedies ready, but I can't do this alone. We must gather what we need to help everyone suffering." The crowd listened intently, the tension in the air shifting as they began to realize that they had a part to play. "Let's organize ourselves," she continued, her voice steady and confident. "We can create small teams to gather herbs and prepare the additional remedies." Finn's mother stepped forward, her strength shining through. "I can lead a group to the forest. I know where some of the rarer herbs grow." "Perfect," Calista replied, feeling the foundation of teamwork solidifying around her. As villagers began to break into groups, excitement rippled through the crowd, and a sense of camaraderie formed, reinforcing the shared goal of healing. Calista felt the responsibility she initially carried shift into a shared weight, her role evolving into one of facilitation rather than centralization. She approached each group, offering guidance and suggestions, fostering a collective spirit among those around her. In that moment, her heart swelled with renewed hope. The energy around her pulsed with possibility, and she realized that they were not just healing individuals. They were transforming the village into a united front, ready to combat the illness together. "Let's meet back here with what we find," she called out, rallying the villagers as they dispersed into the forest and beyond. As they began to gather supplies, Calista felt a strong sense of purpose settle into her bones. She had ignited hope in the village, demonstrating her growth as a leader and healer, and she was ready to embrace whatever challenges came next, together with her community. Calista stood in the village square, the air humming with the energy of activity, as villagers set off in different directions, each carrying the hope that she had ignited within them. Encouraging chatter filled her ears, and for the first time in days, she felt a buoyant sense of optimism. She began to organize her own supplies, grabbing her pouch and ensuring she had everything she might need for the preparations ahead. The vibrant colors of the herbs and plants buzzed with potential, and she felt invigorated by the thought of sharing her knowledge with her fellow villagers. "Stay safe and keep your eyes open," she called after a group heading toward the woods, a mix of familiarity and authority coloring her voice. As she worked, she spotted Finn at the edge of the square, watching everyone with wide, curious eyes. She smiled at him, inviting him closer. "Are you ready to help?" she asked, kneeling down to meet his gaze. He nodded eagerly, a bright smile breaking through his worry. "What can I do?" "Let's gather some herbs together. I could use your keen eyes to help me find the healing plants," she suggested, feeling a surge of warmth at his enthusiasm. Together, they walked toward the edge of the village, and as they moved, Calista took the time to share what she knew about the different herbs they might encounter. her heart swelling with pride as he soaked in every detail. "You really know a lot," Finn remarked, looking amazed, which lit up Callista's spirit even more. The connection with the child reinforced her mission, and she felt empowered by the opportunity to teach and inspire. Suddenly, she noticed a commotion a short distance away, where villagers were gathered, murmuring anxiously. Callista's optimism wavered, replaced by a sense of urgency. She glanced down at Finn. "Let's see what's happening, shall we?" As they approached, the tension in the air became palpable. Calista strained to hear voices rising amid the crowd. Her heart raced, wondering if something had happened to the very people she was trying to help. She needed to maintain her focus and not lose sight of her growing responsibility. Callista's resolve strengthened once again. "Together we can overcome any challenge," she whispered to Finn, squeezing his hand for reassurance as they moved forward into the thickening crowd, ready to confront whatever situation awaited them.